Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, it'd be real helpful if you wouldn't mind clicking that like, subscribing, sure, why not? And let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from I Know a Cheap Ass who says, my 25 female fiance proposed to me, but it turns out the ring is fake. He bought a name brand box off of eBay. Hey guys, so my fiance, Mark, 30 male, and I have been together for 2 years. 2 months ago, he asked me to marry him and gave me a beautiful Cartier engagement ring. I was really excited and of course I said yes. It was a beautiful ring and I was excited to be marrying the man I love. The other day, Mark and I worked together. I overheard 2 co-workers talking about Mark. Someone mentioned that Mark makes so much money, but he didn't even give his girlfriend a real ring. The person asked for clarification. It turns out that Mark bought a Cartier box off of eBay and then bought a CZ ring to put in the box, which from a quick Google is cubic zirconia. Don't quote me on that though. I didn't want to believe it. Then I took my ring to a jeweler to get it checked. My ring is essentially worthless. It isn't anywhere near a diamond. Mark is on business right now. I'm so upset I haven't answered any of his calls or texts. I don't know what to say. Am I wrong for being this upset? I'm honestly starting to think this is a deal breaker. He's so cheap and stingy with his money, but at least I thought he'd buy me a good ring when I know he can afford it. What should I do? Now, one of the things that jumped out to me in this story is that co-workers in your workplace are talking about this. So he must have told them, I'm guessing, at some point that, oh, I just got her like a cubic zirconia ring and just replaced the box. And I just feel like it's not about the ring. It's about like the deception that's at play here. But in the comments, Big B says, you should say, Mark, let's go get the ring appraised for insurance purposes. It's so beautiful. I want to make sure it's protected. Then watch as his world burns around him. Or says my SO after I read him the post. Harry says, hold up, he's bragging about tricking you to people at work. Lord have mercy. Is this fool stupid? He must be, because anyone that works in an office knows that shit spreads like wildfire. Not only is he stupid, he's a scammer with zero respect for your intelligence. That ain't love. Is he seriously 30 damn years old? Ditch this loser. He ain't worth it. When he asks you why, tell him you want someone that'll take you seriously, not a fucking clown. A user replies to that and says, right, a cheap ring is not a deal breaker in itself. Personally, very much believe in setting a budget and picking it out together. Tricking her and then bragging about it is a hallmark of someone who does not respect her at all. Absolutely not. How cruel to make a fool of her to others, and how perfectly manipulative. If she brings it up, she's a gold digger since she couldn't tell the difference. Ugh, no. Just no. Everything about this is wrong. Another user says, I'd be less concerned about the actual value of the ring itself and more about the fact that Mark seems to think you're a person he can scam into complacency. This is not the first time he's likely pulled stunts like this, and it sure as shit won't be the last. Strongly consider ending this relationship. Both threes replies to that saying, yeah, that's what got me. Fuck the ring, it's what it represents. Not only did he have himself a fine little joke at her expense, but he laughed about it to people behind her back. All the while she's walking around thinking she's sporting a Cartier diamond ring. He made a fool of her 3 times over, bringing other people into it, and apparently thinks it's hilarious and awesome. I'm appalled. I normally find the whole engagement ring silly, but this is a symptom of much deeper problems with this guy. I'd be side-eyeing the hills, considering making a run for them. Purple is a Fruit says, my friend's parents got married young and couldn't afford an engagement ring. Her mum always really wanted one. One day her husband just up and gave her one. She was so excited, she was showing everyone and so proud of it. After a few months, she figures out it's a fake. Her husband laughs about it like it's a funny joke. A friend's mum was crushed. A few years later, she cheats on him and they get a divorce. Jane says, this same thing happened to the sister of a friend. She decided to go get the ring appraised on a whim to put under insurance and found out it was worthless. He, now ex, had made many overtures about how pricey the ring was. He couldn't afford other basic shed expenses due to it, etc. He maybe paid $80 on QVC. It is a fundamental breakdown in trust. It is one thing to decide as a couple to just go with a cheaper ring, but I personally would not be able to trust my partner when they were willing to start the next phase of our life with a giant lie and then make a fool of you and tell other people. Please make him your ex. So OP did come in with her update and said, fast update here, so shout out to a couple of users who we read the comments out to. I appreciated all your feedback, but these two had the best comments, especially the latter. I put her plan into motion. Also, if you message me death threats and abuse, please jump off a building. Thanks. I'm not a selfish or materialistic person. I expect honesty from my future spouse, nothing more, nothing less. I haven't taken a dime from Mark. Everything nice that I have was paid for by me. I don't need to be with him for his money because I have my own. What I do want is consideration and thoughtfulness from my partner, not lies. If he had even gotten me something that was made from silver with my birthstone, I would have accepted it because at least it came from the heart and showed thought behind it. I did not, in any way, shape or form, demand a brand name ring or any sort of ridiculously expensive ring. Anyway, long story short, I finally answered Mark's calls and kept it as calm as I could. I told him I wanted to take an insurance policy out on the ring because it was very valuable and I was taking it to an appraiser. Mark immediately shut up and told me that I shouldn't do that until he got back, that he already had a warranty in place at the jeweler, that I shouldn't make big decisions without him. After he stopped spouting off reasons, I told him that it was too late. I already took the ring to a jeweler and knew that not only it was a worthless piece of glass, but also silver plated. The bastard stammered, and the only intelligent thing that came out of his mouth was, "You took it to a real jeweler." Huge fight over finances, selfishness, and lying ensued. He accused me of being a gold digger, and I refuted this by asking him to try and remember the last time I ever made him pay for anything or buy me anything. He had no answer. I said I wanted no part of something based on a lie and hung up. Switched the Facebook status from engaged to single. Oh, and changed the locks on our apartment and gave our dog to my sister to make sure he doesn't try to keep him. I paid for the dog and all of his shots. He'll have a fun time trying to get in when he comes back from his travel. Edit. Realize that I need to give this idiot written letter that he has 30 days to vacate. I'm giving him the letter the second he walks in. We'll give him a spare key if he insists on staying. Darn. Final couple of comments with bits of info from OP. So a user says, on one hand it seems silly to leave someone over a ring, but on the other, this is about much more than the ring. It's about us manipulating and lying to you. That's unacceptable. I'm glad you found a solution that you are comfortable with. OP responds saying, exactly. The ring just brought all the other issues to a head. I'm too angry right now to be sad, but there's no worse feeling when a man that claims to love you takes joy in manipulating you and bragging about what he did to people that know us both personally and in a professional place. And OP's final comment said, I did love him, very much so. But there comes a point where enough is enough. Especially when it comes to something he knew I took very seriously. I can't be disrespected anymore. Thus, I'm putting my foot down and making sure my decision sticks. And, I did see a few of those gold digging comments on there, but like the comment said, it's much more about the ring itself. It's starting their engagement on a huge lie like that, going to the point of buying a fake box on eBay and putting the ring in it, telling your friends and almost making a joke about it at the same time is absolute madness. To think that you're ever going to get away with that, with spreading it around at work. I mean, come on now, especially when you work in the same place as well. Gee whiz, what do you guys make of this situation? Put yourself in OP's shoes. How would you deal with it? Is that breakup worthy for you or not? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. And our next story comes from Honeybee123321. It does come with an update as well, titled 27 Female. I'm engaged to 44 male, and my best friend of 3 years, 39 male, just told me he loves me. This is a throwaway, as I do not want it associated with my primary account. Also, I know that this sub has a huge issue with large age gaps, so I'd like to point out that the age gap between my fiance and I is not the center of this post, and I would appreciate if you kept your opinions about that to yourselves, please. Now, some backstory. I met my best friend Trevor, 39 male, and my fiance Burke, 44 male, almost 5 years ago when I was 22. And they were 40 and 34. They both work together, and for privacy reasons I'm keeping their occupation a secret. But I met Burke first, and we became good friends, and then I met Trevor next. I was immediately infatuated with Trevor. Him and I spoke quite a bit. We went out on a few dates, and I thought he felt the same way about me. But one day he dropped a bomb on me, where he basically told me he never felt anything for me other than the friendship, and doesn't want to lead me on anymore. I played it cool and pretended that I too only wanted friendship. And he laughed and said, "Great, glad we're on the same page." I was bitter and spiteful at first, but eventually I got over it, and Trevor and I became best friends. Instead of avoiding him and cutting him out, my pride got in the way, and I didn't want to appear butthurt, so I carried on like nothing happened. I have zero feelings for Trevor now. We're much better off being friends than lovers anyway. Before, I only ever saw Burke when he was at work. Make a rhyme every time. Him and I had a running joke where I owed him a date. He gave me a lift home one day because it was raining, and he said, "Now you owe me dinner." After joking around about it for a few years, one day I said, "The heck with it, Burke, let's go get dinner." So we went out as friends and had a good time, and we kept hanging out afterwards, going out for coffee and dinner and to the beach. Then after a few months of hanging out, I developed feelings for him. Apparently, he also had feelings for me. And one evening after a Game of Thrones marathon, we ended up having sex. Burke and I slept together for a few months, and we weren't sure if our feelings were because of the sex or if we really did like one another. And we stopped with the sex and the feelings never left, so we just decided to start dating. And it's been pretty great ever since. We have had minimal problems, and the ones we have had were easily resolved. Burke and I have been together for 2.5 years, living together for 1.5 years, and engaged for almost a year. We're getting married in a month. Burke and Trevor have grown a bit closer since Burke and I got together, and Trevor is even going to be one of Burke's groomsmen in the wedding. I thought everything was perfect, and we're all one big happy family. Now for my problem. Trevor and I went out for a walk last night, and before we parted ways, he told me he's in love with me. He told me that back then when we first met, he didn't feel it at the time, but as I've gotten older and matured and whatever, he suddenly realized that he made a mistake and thinks we are compatible and that I became the kind of woman he wants to date. But when he realized this, Burke and I announced our relationship to the world. I told Trevor that this was the worst timing. I can't believe he did this to me. I'm getting married in a month, and that this is totally messed up. He told me he's sorry, but he had to let his feelings be known now before I get married. He said he also hopes that some part of me still wants him, and then told me to take some time to process this and let him know my decision later on in the week. My decision? I still love Burke. He's the man I'm going to marry. All my feelings for Trevor left years ago as soon as I realized he was leading me on and never felt anything for me. I don't know what I'm going to do. This is going to change everything. Trevor and I will no longer be friends, and our wedding is going to be one man short. And not to mention, Burke and Trevor still work together, and they have to interact with one another quite a bit at work, and this is going to be such a mess. Part of me also feels like this is Trevor continuing to mess around with my head. He didn't want me back then, so I moved on, and now I'm getting married. He wants what he can't have. I have no idea. I have to tell my soon-to-be husband, but I don't know when or how. Like, when he comes home from work, do I just blurt it out? Do I do it over supper? Do I do it before bed? I know that this is going to cause a pretty big awkward mess, and I want to sort this out with minimal casualties as possible. Burke worked late last night, so when he came home, I already finished bawling my eyes out, and I was fast asleep. And when he woke up this morning, I had already left for work. It's 12:12 p.m. here where I live, and Burke will be home at 7 p.m. That gives me 7 hours to work this out in my head. I'm so upset right now. I just lost my best friend. There's no way Trevor and I can continue hanging out anymore. And once I tell Burke, he's most likely not going to like me continuing to talk to Trevor, which is understandable. Sorry if this post is long and all over the place. I'm just so stressed out. And there was a couple of comments after that post, so immediately, regardless of what OP says, people are going to go onto the age gap. So OP does leave a comment about it. It says, it's because an older man dating such a younger girl is seen as either A, he has something wrong with him, B, she has daddy issues, or C, a combination of both, and the older guy wants to control the younger girl. It's foolish, really. I'm glad my relationship gives you hope, girl. I'm a bit of an old soul and had to mature faster than most girls. So while my friends were 18 and 19, drinking and having fun with their boyfriends, I was living alone, working full time to support myself while going to college. Guys my age just don't cut it for me anymore. The way I see it, if you're both happy and over the age of 19, age is just a number. Someone mentioned about cutting off Trevor is best, and OP says, I already planned on cutting Trevor out. This whole situation just breaks my heart because I didn't see it coming at all. And now I have to adjust to life without having my best friend around, and Burke now has to deal with working next to a guy who tried to steal his fiance. And in between, people covering the age gap, other people were saying that you just need to tell Burke right away because otherwise, there's potential to damage your own relationship here. But OP does come in with an update and says, so, I didn't get a crazy amount of attention on my last post, but I still decided it deserved an update nonetheless. I'd like to thank you all for your comments, they really helped. First, I spoke to Burke that night. He came home from work, and before we got too comfy, I told him we needed to talk, and then we sat down and spoke. I started telling him about the start of mine and Trevor's relationship because he didn't know how our friendship began. I then told him about how he confessed to being in love with me and how I have zero feelings for him. I love Burke and only Burke, and he's the man I'm going to marry. Burke didn't look too surprised. He said he had a feeling that something like this was going to happen because every time Trevor, Burke and I are in the same general area, Trevor always had this look on his face and seems annoyed and agitated in general. He always assumed Trevor was salty about our relationship together. Apparently it's common gossip around the workplace that Trevor wants a piece of Burke's woman. Burke also told me that he's kind of glad this happened in a way because part of him always worried that I had feelings for Trevor or was going to leave him for Trevor because Trevor is a bit closer to my age than he is. I messaged Trevor and told him that there was no choice and that I love Burke and I'm getting married to him next month. Trevor left me on red and removed me from Facebook almost immediately afterwards. I've seen him out in public a few times here and there, but we never spoke. He wouldn't even look at me. After about a week or two, he texted me and told me that he's sorry things had come to this. He was almost 100% certain that I still had feelings for him and that this was going to have a different ending. He told me he's kicking himself in the ass for dicking me around in the past and missing out on his chance with me, and told me if I changed my mind, I know how to contact him. I never replied. I feel closer to my fiance more than ever, and we both decided to try for a baby. I've been thinking of asking Burke about starting a family for a while, but I wanted to wait until after the wedding, so I wasn't trying to squeeze my pregnant belly into a wedding dress. And apparently, he was having the same thoughts as I was. I took my last BCP on Saturday, and we've both been really busy putting in some last-minute wedding plans and trying to make a baby. Thanks for your help, Reddit. A piece of me still feels hollow because I just lost my best friend of 5 years, and part of me wishes there was a different outcome, where I could have both my man and my bestie in my life, and things could go back to the way they used to be, but I know that's impossible. But I'll be okay in the end. I wish I could invite you all to the wedding, but sadly, we're already full. After this one, Sharks for Park says, I know a guy who did this with every woman he ever met, but he didn't love them. Just the idea of being in love with them. Opie says, I'm kind of getting the, I don't want you, but I don't want anyone else to have you vibes from Trevor, to be honest. When I was single and secretly dating Burke, he was just my good old buddy Trev. But as soon as we became open about our relationship, we kept it in the dark pretty much right until we moved in together because of the fear of backlash over our age differences. Trevor started to get weird. I hope he comes in talking about the age gap again and says, I was 22 and still in college when I met Burke, and I've graduated since then obviously, and I'm working full time now, but still lol. I get where most people are coming from with the whole age difference thing, but for me, age is just a number. As long as you love each other and have a connection, and one of you isn't taking advantage of the other, then age doesn't matter. hence the 17 age gap between my soon-to-be husband and I, lol. I was 25 and he was 42 when we started pursuing one another. Also, I was the one who went after him, not the other way around. What is wrong with this sub, lol? Large age gaps don't always equal that both parties involved have something wrong with them. Another comment saying, we met when we were 22 and 39. We didn't start doing anything until I was 25 and he was 42. I instigated it because I liked him. He wasn't like, oh damn, a young woman to take advantage of and abuse. Let's hop on to that. No, he was hesitant about being more than friends with benefits at first because of the age gap, and then stayed in the dark for a while afterwards, but eventually got tired of hiding it and said the hell with it. Literally no one in our life had a problem with it. My parents are 5 to 8 years older than Burke and they welcomed him with open arms. Someone talking about on if she wasted her 20s and she said, I was never bored though. That's just how I chose to live. My friends used to give me a hard time about it, call me Grandma Dan or Old Lady Danielle. But it didn't bother me really. While they spent their weekends hungover, I spent them reading a book or rock climbing. And I chose to experiment and have fun in my 20s by doing things that were exciting. I mean, I guess I lied when I said I never drank. I drank like twice and I've been drunk once, and I hated every minute of it. I chose to experiment and have fun by bungee jumping, flying a plane, hiking, exploring, road tripping, camping, cliff diving, things like that. I don't think I'm going to look back at my life and think I wasted any bit of it. I think I had a pretty good life. And that was OP's last comment on the account and last activity on the account in general. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, your support, your time always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being involved, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.